Thanks for joining Shay's Ask the Stewie series. This series is made possible through Shay's expert members and the Shay's Antimicrobial Stewardship Committee answering questions submitted by our membership. This month, we're joined by Drs. Payal, Patel, and Valerie, Vaugh. They're going to be answering a question that comes up regularly. How do you find stewardship mentorship? Dr. Patel, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this is a really common question. And I think fellows ask this all the time. People ask this, even further into your career. And one thing that I really want to talk about is actually peer mentorship. So Valerie and I are peer mentors. We started really working together my first year as an attending. Valerie actually introduced herself to me, gave me some tips on how to integrate myself into my new role at University of Michigan, and I was super thankful. And we have actually continued that role. We didn't know that we were going to end up both doing stewardship, but that has been incredibly helpful. And in fact, before this session, before this 5 minutes, I got some career advice from Valerie. So I would say, you don't necessarily have to start looking for a mentor super like accomplished in your field. It can start with your co-fellows. It can start with people that you meet at national meetings, and having regular check-ins can be really, really helpful.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I would just say, the key to mentorship is that it's a team sport, that you shouldn't just have one person as a mentor because things can change, people can come or go, roles can change. And so really thinking about not like who is my mentor, but who's my mentorship team. And we often put that together in terms of kind of 4 big categories, 5 if you include peer mentorship, which I 100% would. But one person who's kind of a traditional mentor, they don't have to be a stewardship person. It could be someone in infectious diseases or someone you look up to who helps kind of guide you on a career path. Which fellowship should you go into? What should you be negotiating for in your first job? So some kind of traditional mentor who's looking out for your career trajectory. And then someone who's maybe more of like a coach. And what we mean by that is they work on skills. And here's actually where it might be someone that does stewardship. And it could be a stewardship pharmacist. It could be anybody who does stewardship work, and they kind of help you with like, how do you run a stewardship program? Like, what should you be focusing on? And then someone who, and Payal serves as this for me, is a connector, right? So someone who loves to get to know everybody and can help introduce you to people in the field. Those are people that maybe you even meet them through Twitter. It's someone who is really engaged in the community and really likes connecting people. And then the one that people often forget, especially I think women and underrepresented minorities, is having a sponsor. And that tends to be the person who's really high up in the field or has a lot of power and can introduce you and put your name in the arena for opportunities when they arise. And maybe they don't have enough bandwidth to actually review a paper, but because of their leadership position, they can help you identify opportunities and nominate you for those opportunities.
Yeah, that's great. And I do want to say that most people are not going to have a sponsor, especially early on in their career. And so that's why, again, you want that team. So if you can fill like 1 or 2 of those slots, every couple of years, you'll hopefully end up with that full mentorship team somewhere along the way. The other thing that I wanted to say is like for ID fellows, you never know. It's hard to know what you're going to be interested in. So I feel like there's a lot of people like myself that didn't know that you were going to do stewardship or infection control until your second year or like late, you're months away from graduating. So I would say that is a good time to connect with the person who does that job at your fellowship. Even if they can give you some on the job, like, hey, this is what my day is like. These are kind of the tough things that happened for me in the first few years. That can be really, really helpful advice before you go off into your first job.
And if you're like me, and maybe you aren't an ID fellow, I'm a hospitalist by training, but you want to do stewardship, Shay is actually a great place to network and meet potential mentors. So that's how I got to know a lot of the people that I now collaborate with, and how I gained a lot of the expertise that I now have doing stewardship, even though I'm not ID trained. And then I think the last point of advice is, once you do have that person that you've met, you've been connected to, you need to demonstrate to them early on that you're worth investing in. Because especially if they're like a sought after mentor, they might hear from a lot of people, but they also are probably really excited to mentor people. So one thing I always tell people is over deliver and really bring your A game to that first meeting with someone. and follow up with them afterwards with a thank you and like, here are some things that I thought, here's some next steps for moving forward. As much as you can drive that relationship and bring energy to the table, makes you more likely that that mentor is going to want to work with you long term, and that you're going to be able to develop that eventual very successful mentoring team.
Thanks for watching our Ask Our Stewie video.